Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Is Neutrality Not Enough? This will be Part 6, Chapter 6. Endeavor. The words are said like venom, dripping and burning. Izuku's face is apathetic and doesn't show any emotion, but from the inside he is fuming. He only barely manages to keep his hands from shaking. Endeavor raises an angry eyebrow. Out of my way, boy. You're not supposed to be here. He moves to step past Izuku, but Izuku blocks him. Neither are you, and yet here we are. The room increases in temperature, and Endeavor crosses his arms in front of him as he growls. I have a match to watch, so move before I make you. Izuku laughs coldly. The sound bounces off the walls and echoes. Daringly, he looks up into Endeavor's eyes, letting his anger shine through. Oh? What are you going to do to make me move? Intimidate me like you do to your fans? Pay me off like you do to the press? Or hit me like you do to your family? Endeavor's eyes widen a bit in surprise, but the man immediately covers it with more anger. It looks like he wants to say something, but before he can, Izuku continues. Or will you just ignore me and storm past me like you do when civilians need help? How dare you make such allegations against the number 2 hero? They're not allegations, Endeavor. They're cold facts. Enraged, Endeavor moves to grab Izuku, but he ducks underneath the man's arm, and he's in the hero's face within a second. His eyes glint a dangerous radioactive green, and his aura seems to freeze the air in the hallway. He looks into the surprised teal-blue eyes and whispers, Don't lay another hand on your kids, or you'll regret it. He backs away from the stunned hero and walks away. When he looks over his shoulder into the hero's eyes, he calls, I know everything, so watch your back, Todoroki NG. The hero moves a few seconds later, and when he does, he goes to follow the boy with angry footsteps and the thought of getting out of the boy exactly how he got this information. The boy has disappeared, leaving no trace behind. Unbeknownst to both of them, a shocked teenager is standing just around the corner wondering what he had just heard. Shoto Todoroki is leaning confused against the wall and trying to figure out why someone would go against the number 2 hero in that way. The teenager absently covers his scar with his hand. Would maybe this person be willing to listen? Breaking him from his thoughts is the announcer calling him up for the match. He sighs and pushes himself off the wall. Don't be stupid. Nobody's ever listened. Have you ever heard of quirk marriages? Hitoshi stares at Todoroki from across the ring. He thinks back to their conversation during lunch. He's always known that not all heroes are worthy of their title, but to have the number 2 hero be such a scumbag is still shocking. Maybe not if you look at the right places, but whoever does. He's the number 2 after all. I can't stand that left side of you, my mother said, before she poured boiling hot water over me. At first, Hitoshi had judged Todoroki as a spoiled rich kid, the one who grew up with everything already his. The kid who never had to work hard to get what he wanted. But now he's not so sure whether that's true anymore. I blame my father for what happened, you know. Hitoshi had thought that they came from 2 completely different worlds. Before his dads adopted him, his home situation had also not been good. But maybe that was not entirely true. Maybe having a good quirk did not necessarily mean that her life was easier. So I will win without using his quirk, to prove that I don't need it to become number 1. He clenches his fist and glares at Todoroki. That was the arrogance he'd expected from a rich kid, the arrogance to think that he didn't need all of his quirk, to think that he could just half-ass this tournament. Hitoshi will make him use his quirk. He knows that he will probably not win this match. Todoroki knows his quirk and is not the kind of person to talk much. But Hitoshi is going to make him use his quirk, his entire quirk. He's not doing it to save Todoroki from himself or whatever. No, Hitoshi is not so selfless. Maybe someone else is, but not him. But more to make Todoroki take this match seriously. So, Are you going to half-ass this match, or are you going to take me seriously? Hitoshi asks, a bit tauntingly, whilst Midnight explains the rules. Todoroki just glares at him and doesn't answer the question. Instead, he blows an ice cloud out. Apparently not. Start! The whip comes down with a crack, and immediately the creaking of an iceberg follows. It cools the air in seconds and makes everyone in the stand shiver. Most of the spectators are already expecting the match to be over. However, Hitoshi has anticipated this, so he jumps the second the air cools and lands on the steep ice slope. Quickly, he slides down and into close combat range of Todoroki. The other teen is ready and blocks the first punch from Hitoshi with 2 arms. He extends his right arm in order to grab Hitoshi and freeze him again, but Hitoshi evades the arm and quickly steps to Todoroki's left side. They continue this for a few minutes. Hitoshi stays on Todoroki's left side and keeps attacking on the teen's fire side, whilst Todoroki keeps trying to freeze Hitoshi. In the background, you can hear Pops' commentary and the cheers from the crowd. He doesn't pay it any mind as he has to keep all his attention on not getting frozen. He can see that Todoroki is getting frustrated because the teen keeps making bigger and bigger ice attacks even though Hitoshi evades them each time, or is too close to be caught up in them. You know this fight could have already been over if you just used your fire, right? Todoroki doesn't answer, though he does frown and tries to grab Hitoshi again. Hitoshi just evades, and feels his own frustration bubbling up, so he shouts. I mean, it's pretty insulting to not go all out. I'm going all out. Everyone else here is giving it their all, and you just refuse to do your best. Invisible threads spread out, looking for their target. With a gust of cold wind, another iceberg appears. This one is bigger than all the previous ones, and Hitoshi can't help but shiver from the cold. He evades this one again, and easily stays on Todoroki's left side, because the other teen's movements are getting slower. He can see that the cold is also starting to affect him, as frost is starting to crawl up his face and he's shivering even more than Hitoshi. He is surprised when he sees Todoroki's face written in anger, when the teen turns his head to the left to look at Hitoshi again. Did my father ask you to do this? The heterochromatic teen hisses. The mental threads connect. Immediately, Hitoshi takes hold of Todoroki's mind, invisible threads tying around the other's mind and seizing control. The other teen goes slack in his movements, all the anger is washed from his face and his eyes look glassy. In the background, Mike is screaming and the crowd is roaring. Hitoshi walks in front of Todoroki and calmly says, No, I don't think I would do anything that man would ask me to do. He sighs and tilts his head to the side. You should learn that not everything that happens is because of your father. It's your life, you know. It's your power. Now walk out of bounds for me. Todoroki turns around and begins to walk towards the edge of the field. Hitoshi tucks his hands in his pockets in an attempt to warm his freezing hands. The air around here is really cold. Todoroki is still taking measured steps toward the white line. In his peripheral vision, he can see Midnight observing the match with a hand on her hip. Her whip flails in the wind. Todoroki is now almost there and takes another step, this time on a part of the field that's still frozen. That's when everything goes wrong. The moment Todoroki puts his foot down, he slips and falls face forward on the ice. Hitoshi can feel exactly when his hold on Todoroki's mind breaks. The teen immediately jumps up with his right side freezing and his left side burning. Wow, his flames are really beautiful. In that moment, Todoroki also seems to realize that his left side is flaming. His eyes widen, and Hitoshi sees a spark of panic in them. Then the flames die again, and the teen sends out a huge wave of ice in Hitoshi's direction. He scrambles backwards in an attempt to evade the massive glacier, but it's futile. In a matter of seconds, he is frozen in a massive glacier. The crowd roars, and Midnight cracks her whip when he makes it clear that he can't move. Todoroki approaches him and starts on freezing him. In a way, he looks sad. I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm ready to use that side yet. Hitoshi doesn't say anything. He's never really the one to comfort others. Once Hitoshi is melted out of the ice, the other teen turns around and begins to walk away. Hitoshi stumbles after him. "Wait!" Todoroki turns his head and looks at Hitoshi. His face is as apathetic as ever, but his posture sad. "If you ever want help with your quirk, I know someone who would gladly help you." Todoroki hesitates for a moment, then nods. "Thank you." With that, he walks away, and the medical bots from Recovery Girl appear to take Hitoshi to her. Hitoshi waves them away, and instead walks on his own to her medical tent. He's not sure whether he helped Todoroki, or convinced him to go all out. He does know that he doesn't mind losing as much this way. He went all out, and held his own against 1A's resident powerhouse for longer than anyone else. He showed the world what he was made of, and that's what this festival is all about. Izuku sits back after the match between Shinso and Todoroki. He wasn't able to hear what they were talking about, but he knows it had something to do with Todoroki refusing to use his left side. All the other matches weren't that special, except for maybe Mei's match. She just used the match as a 10-minute commercial, though she did only show her non-lethal inventions. Izuku guesses the school had something to do with that, because otherwise she would have definitely used her XXL flamethrower. The matches after Shinso's and Todoroki's match also go as expected. In the end, Bakugo wins. Unfortunately, Izuku would love to see him lose for once. Todoroki comes in second, and Ingenium's little brother and the boy with the bird head come in third. Izuku is just wondering why Ida is not on the podium when Present Mic announces that the teen cannot attend due to a family emergency. Then All Might appears and starts to hand out the medals. Izuku doesn't really have the need to watch the hero do the ceremony, so he opens his phone and just scrolls through some forums. That's when he receives the message. Anonymous. Thank you for your information. Thanks to you, the Purge of Heroes can continue. Oh, right. That's why Ida's not here. Izuku had almost forgotten that he'd given Stain info on some heroes. It was a while ago, and he honestly forgot. It reminds him, though, that Stain still needs to pay for the info, and that his period for payment ends soon. Guess I'll have to pay him a visit. When the ceremony ends, Izuku leaves the stadium together with the rest of the crowd. He can't help but smile a little when he hears multiple heroes talk about wanting to offer Shinso an internship. It's your life, you know. It's your power. Shoto stops jogging and goes into a walk. That same sentence has been on repeat in his head ever since the festival. It's now 2 days later, early in the morning, and Shoto is going for a run. It's a good excuse to leave the house and escape his father's shitty mood. After the festival, it had not been fun to immediately have another training session and have his father scream at him for how much of a failure he was. If you ever want help with your quirk, I know someone who would gladly help you. He crosses the street and starts jogging again, past the garbage-filled beach. He's still not sure whether he's ready to use his fireside. He's been thinking of visiting his mother before he does so. As nerve-wracking as that thought is, he knows he wants to do that first. Then he'll ask Shinso for that person who can help him. There's no way that he's going to ask his father for tips on fire control. Shoto is so caught up in his own thoughts that he doesn't notice the smoke coming from the beach until he smells it. He stops and looks to his right, where a column of gray smoke rises from within the heaps of trash. Now, it's probably not the smartest idea to enter the beach and look for the source of the smoke, but Shoto does it anyway. He walks around the heaps of garbage over the few paths that still exist, and enters a bigger open space that looks out over the sea. In the middle stands a green-haired teen in front of a huge fire, throwing Endeavor merch in the flames. Shoto stops in his tracks and just stares. He recognizes the other teen. You're Shinso's friend. Shinso's friend, Midoriya, if he recalls correctly, turns around and looks at him. His arms are filled with Endeavor merch. Oh, it's you. Todoroki, right? Shoto nods and just stares confused at the burning Endeavor plushie in the fire. What are you doing? Midoriya grins a Cheshire grin, and his innocent face looks absolutely terrifying. Burning Endeavor merch. Shoto suppresses a shiver at the pure malicious intent coming from that sentence. Instead, he frowns. Why? Midoriya shrugs and turns around. Because I hate him. He throws Shoto an armful of merch. If you want, you can join. He doesn't have to say that twice, and without hesitation, Shoto joins by his side and starts throwing Endeavor merch in. For a while, that's all they do, but suddenly Midoriya says, Congratulations on second place, by the way. Todoroki grimaces. Thanks. I don't think my father was happy with it, though. Midoriya looks up from the fire, and with a twitch of his lips, says, Well, I don't think he can complain, because all he's ever gotten in his life is second place. Todoroki can't help but snort. In the end, Todoroki leaves a few hours later, with a small smile on his face for the first time in forever, and a new number added to his phone. He decides that maybe Midoriya can be his first friend? He honestly has no clue when it comes to social interactions, but he gets the feeling that neither does Midoriya. However, he does know from the few manga he borrowed from his sister to read that when you exchange numbers, the other person wants to be friends. Going on a morning jog was a great idea. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 6 of Is Neutrality Not Enough? Chapter 7 will be up next. Drop those thoughts, comments, reactions below, and as always, thank you all so much for listening.